All right, and we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome and thank you for joining our virtual public meeting on the Purple Line Rapid Transit Project. My name is Jordan Patterson and I am IndyGo's Special Programs Manager. I want to welcome you to tonight's meeting. Joining me as a presenter is Jarvis Jointzer, who is our construction liaison for the Purple Line. Wave at everybody, Jarvis. We also have a very special guest, Ms. Kendra Noel of the Community Alliance of the Far East Side, also known as Cafe Indy. First, I want to explain why we're here. We are gearing up for construction of the Purple Line Rapid Transit route that will extend 15.2 miles, replacing and improving Route 39 with more comfortable, reliable, and accessible transit, as well as some significant infrastructure improvements. And tonight, we'll cover what construction looks like for this project and anticipated impacts, as well as our efforts to help communities in the corridor thrive through construction. Our meeting agenda is pretty simple. We'll have a few remarks from Kendra, followed by a presentation, and then afterward, we will hold a Q&A session. I do have a few quick housekeeping items to pass along, and then we'll get started. To keep inquiries organized, we ask you to submit your questions and comments through the Q&A feature. And this can be found by hovering your mouse over the Zoom window. You'll see a little toolbar with the prominent Q&A button. Clicking this button will open a submit a question prompt. Please note that the chat feature will be turned off tonight, but attendees are welcome to submit questions and comments using the Q&A feature at any time during the meeting. After the presentation, participants will be able to raise their virtual hand and be called upon. We recognize that all questions may not be addressed during our limited meeting time this evening, and we certainly want to be respectful of everyone's time, which we know is extremely valuable. And to that end, any general Purple Line questions that aren't addressed during this meeting can be submitted to our customer service at 317-635-3344. But for specific and urgent construction related questions, you can direct those to Jarvis Joyner, and we'll provide his contact information later on. Lastly, we remind everyone to abide by our public meeting code of conduct and decorum, which is intended to promote an environment of fairness, courtesy, and respect for differing viewpoints. And now I'd like to turn it over to Kendra just to share a few remarks.
Thank you so much, Jordan. Good evening, everyone. And thank you for inviting me to this very engaging conversation. My name is Kendra Noel, and I am the CEO of the Community Alliance of the Far East Side, better known as Cafe. We are located in the heart of the Far East Side, right at 38 and Post Road. Part of our mission at Cafe and the day-to-day work that we do is to advocate for equity within our communities. And this brings why I am just very excited about the Purple Line project that is coming and how this is going to be able to enhance mobility to the community on the Far East Side. This historic investment that is coming to our community is able to bring significant infrastructure that is needed in some of our areas. So with that, there's going to be some replaced sidewalks, ADA curb maps, stormwater separation, road pavement, and much more. So we're just very grateful for the project, excited to see how all of this lays out. We know that it's going to take some time. There's going to be mass construction that's going on. So I do encourage everyone to kind of stay engaged in these conversations that come up. Follow IndyGo on their social media pages for announcements, and then also so you can voice any opinions that you may have. And, you know, we're here to kind of help and answer questions and connect to where it needs to be during the construction process. Also with this, with transit being a very focal point of how we support our community, we do know that there are some gaps, and we're happy that IndyGo is addressing this with Lakeisha Jackson and Pathway Resource Center with looking for some micro transit opportunities that might come within some of those gaps. So thank you. Excited to be here and excited to support all of you.
Thank you, Kendra. We're excited to be on the Far East Side. We're basically neighbors now with IndyGo moving our headquarters over to 33rd and Post Road. And so lots more to come on improvements to the Far East Side. Again, thank you for sharing your comments. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and then we will get started with the presentation. All right, hopefully everyone can see my screen. All right, so first let's just give an overview of the project. Hopefully by now, majority of you are familiar with the project, but some might be tuning in, getting engaged for the first time. And so if you're not familiar with the Purple Line, it is IndyGo's next bus rapid transit route. And it shares very similar features to the Red Line, including following the same alignment of the Red Line from the Carson Transit Center all the way to 38th and Park. And so in this stretch, riders will be able to benefit from 5 to 7 minute frequency in service as both Red and Purple Line buses alternate in this stretch. And then east of Park, you'll start to see exclusive Purple Line stations beginning at the State Fairgrounds, going all the way east to 38th and Post, and then from Post going to the Terminus, which is at the Ivy Tech located at the Fort Benjamin Harris campus. And like the Red Line, the Purple Line will provide service 7 days per week, 20 hours per day, Monday through Saturday, and then 14 hours per day on Sundays. And 90% of the corridor will have dedicated lane. And I just want to say that our mission at IndyGo is about connecting people to cultural and economic opportunities through safe, reliable, and accessible mobility experiences. And we believe that this project does just that. It pushes our mission forward. You can see on the slide who this project serves, a majority minority population, and they will have access to job opportunities. And again, we're really going to be pushing our mission forward through this project. Funding and budget. All right, so the Purple Line is funded through a combination of local and federal dollars. The total project budget is $188 million, and about $7.4 million of that is a contribution from DPW and Citizens Energy Group. And they will be helping to conduct storm sewer separation along a portion of 38th Street between Fall Creek Parkway and Adams Street. And then the other $180 million is what the FTA considers to be project budget from the standpoint of capital investment grant eligibility. They're going to be covering 50% of the construction costs. So like I said, 81 million. The other remaining funds come from a combination of other federal grants, another DPW local match contribution, and IndyGo's local funds. All right, let's talk about progress. Where are we at in the Purple Line project? So the Federal Transit Administration, as I stated in the slide prior, awarded IndyGo $81 million of the Small Starts Grant to begin construction, which was the trigger for us to basically advertise the project for construction bids. Construction bids were received in October and awarded to 2 contractors in December. Kreider & Kreider was awarded Package A, which includes the roadway work, the drainage, sidewalks, and path construction. Then F.A. Wilhelm was awarded Package B work, which includes all the station construction and installation of communication equipment. Both contractors were given notice to proceed in January, and that basically starts the clock for construction. Utility work is already underway to make way for Purple Line construction. And so next you'll start to see, some major construction impacts, and we're going to get into that timeline during this presentation. I would like to take a moment to speak to supplier diversity. Because the project uses federal dollars, we award the project based on the lowest responsive and responsible bidder. And that does include a diversity business enterprise participation goal. And this is a space we work to improve in. And part of improving that is accountability. F.A. Wilhelm didn't meet our suggested goal. But Crichton did not fully meet that suggested goal, but has shown a good faith effort to increase participation from minority businesses. In fact, in the past month since awarding the contract, they have risen their participation of diversity business by over $1.6 million. And we will continue to work with Crichton throughout the project and are committed to working with small businesses. For example, we have our IndyGo vendor development program to improve the progress writing skills and really teach small businesses how to work with IndyGo. You know, at IndyGo, we are about breaking barriers and connecting people to opportunity, and that includes through our procurement process. All right, let's cover station details. The Purple Line will bring, as I said earlier, 18 new stations. That includes some mechanisms that help to speed up service. This is rapid transit, so we're going to be putting the rapid and rapid transit. One of the ways that we do that is through dedicated lanes. Another way that we do it is through off-board fare collection. You'll see in the rendering here how there is a ticket vending machine and a My Key validator, which is our new fare payment system. Riders will pay and validate their payment at the station, and then when the buses come, you're either getting on or you're getting off. We also have a docking platform. It meets the same height as the buses, so this is particularly useful for those in wheelchairs, those with strollers, or those who have a cane or even have a bike. You can simply roll your device onto the bus, and again, it's just about keeping service moving. IndyGo has also incorporated lesson learned from the Red Line into every aspect of the project, including its design. Some of the changes we've made, including updating materials for ease of construction and maintenance, such as the wood and glass used at station locations. We're adding rub rail to the platform edges to assist drivers in their approach, and much more. All right, so the station at the north end of the Purple Line will be a bit different than the other stations. You're looking at the Lawrence terminus right here. As you can see, the design is a bit different. Our electric buses will be able to charge inductively here. The charging is noiseless and is safe. Inductive charging pads are embedded in the pavement and connected to charging pads on the buses to transfer charge. So this will help give the buses a boost to provide that reliable service that we're going for with rapid transit. In addition to a separate structure, we are looking at ways to make this particular terminus station a little fancy with some art. So more to come on that. But this slide shows how the terminus station is situated between Wheeler Road and Ivy Tech in Lawrence. The brick closure that is shown between Wheeler Road and the station is where the charging equipment will be housed, where my cursor is right now. All right. So we all are aware by now of the improvements to our riders that rapid transit and the Purple Line will bring with reducing travel transit time by 25%. But this is much more than a transit project. This is an infrastructure project as well. Over 50% of the project budget is dedicated to infrastructure improvements. And that includes 25 or upgraded traffic signals. We have a 3-mile multi-use path that we'll be putting in. We've been on 38th Street. It's a little rough. You know, there are stretches where there are no sidewalks or where sidewalks are crumbling. So we're going to be adding in those sidewalks. And, you know, we've already kind of spoken to that earlier. And there'll even be curb ramps that we're putting in, and then some things happening underneath the ground. This is a pretty cool before and after picture. What you're looking at is the intersection of Wallace Avenue and 38th Street, where Kingdom Apostolic Ministries is. Here you can see the significant infrastructure improvements that we're going to be putting in. If you were following my cursor, you'll notice the multi-use path. You'll also see the sidewalk infrastructure that we're going to be putting in, the new pavement, the dedicated lanes, and then the inverted crown, which should help with drainage, which will help with drainage improvement. All right. And so I mentioned that, this is a major infrastructure project, and some of that work, a lot of it is happening underneath the ground. IndyGo has partnered with the City of Indianapolis and Citizens Energy Group to do some storm sewer separation along 38th Street from Fall Creek Parkway to Adams Street, which is a nearly 2-mile stretch. And this entails building a new storm sewer system to collect storm sewer runoff and drain into the Fall Creek. And so, again, lots of happening, over the ground, but also things are happening underneath the ground. Continuing to talk about some of these improvements that are happening. This is a rendering that shows a bird's eye view at Emerson Avenue and 38th Street. And I believe this represents more broadly what you'll see throughout the corridor. Here you can see how the project will better define business driveways, ultimately improving safety. I'd also like to point out the sidewalks and increase accessibility with ADA signals, crosswalks, and ramps. And then you'll also notice the center running dedicated lane in this particular rendering. Speaking of dedicated lanes, as I said earlier, the project operates in 90% dedicated lanes throughout the corridor. And there are 3 main configurations that you should be aware of. The first one is the dedicated bidirectional bus lane, pictured over here to the left. And this involves buses traveling in both directions using the single lane segment throughout the day. The second configuration is the dedicated center running dedicated bus only lane. And in this particular configuration, it uses a 2-way dedicated bus only lane, one for each direction of travel. And then lastly, you can see the bus and turn lane. And in this configuration, motorists may merge through a bus and turn lane to access existing left turn pockets. Here's a little illustration that shows what that looks like. So here you see the red car. Today, it would just kind of make that left turn wherever they get an opportunity. But with the dedicated lane being put in, that car will have to go to the next signalized intersection. They'll be able to make a protected U-turn in order to access their business. I will say that there was a study that was done a few years ago where we found that 415 accidents could have been mitigated by the center lane configuration. Then we see a video to the right where you can see how cars are able to access the bus and turn lane in order to make those left lane turn pockets. Got a little tongue tied there. And this slide summarizes the different lane configurations by segment. In front of the State Fairgrounds between College Avenue and Fall Creek Parkway, the purple line will run in a short section of bidirectional transit lane, similar to what you would find on College Avenue. And then from Fall Creek Parkway to Shadeland, you'll notice that there are dedicated center running lanes with U-turns and left turns permitted at every signalized intersection. And then lastly, we have the dedicated bus and turn lane from Shadeland all the way to 56th Street in Lawrence. And then past that to the terminus, you'll notice the mixed traffic as it is today. We have heard some questions about, well, how is the purple line going to affect local route service when it's implemented? And what I can say is that we are currently evaluating our future service plans. This is a part of an ongoing process to evaluate service. We continually look for ways to improve our service. And right now, we are undergoing what is called a comprehensive operational analysis. It's something that we undergo every 5 years. And our review starts with and builds off the Marion County Transit Plan. And we are making adjustments based off of our current realities with impacts like COVID-19. But what we know for sure is that the Purple Line will replace most of Route 39 with stations that are spaced about a quarter to a half mile apart. We call this bus stop balancing, where we space out stops to speed up service. But the final configurations of all other local route service connecting to the Purple Line, as I said, are under review. There will be a public outreach process where we share this information with the public, and we vet it, or you all vet it, and give us your feedback, and we'll go from there. With that being said, I will turn it over to Jarvis Jointer, our construction liaison.
Good evening. Good evening. Again, I'm Jarvis Joyner, the construction outreach liaison during the project. I'll be your main point of contact during the project as it continues to progress. Due to the size of the project and different features across the Purple Line, we have divided the project into 6 different segments. As we share construction progress and impacts, we will use these segments in our communications. Will you show the dates? Mm-hmm. The dates shown in this graphic are estimated periods of construction for each segment. Right now, we are projecting that work on 38th Street will start at the west end of the project at the fairgrounds, and move east. Work on a portion of 38th Street from Shadeland Avenue to Post Road and on Post Road itself will also be scheduled early in the project of 2022. The section of 38th Street between Emerson Avenue and Shadeland Avenue is currently scheduled to be under construction towards the end of the project. So please consider this as a reference. As you know, construction and times can change. We'll tell you later in the presentation how we'll keep you up to date with construction so you'll be ready when construction comes to you. Next slide. Closures. As construction progresses, there will be a need for to restrict traffic in some locations. Some of these restrictions will be lane closures, full road or intersection closures, which require detours around the construction areas. These closures were developed to minimize impact on traveling public and businesses, expedite construction, provide a better finished product, and increase safety of both the traveling public and the construction workers. Please note that our contractors are required to maintain access to businesses and residents throughout construction. Again, the contractors are required to maintain access to all businesses and residents throughout construction. We're going to give you a quick rundown of the full roadway and intersection closures here, and then we'll go through each one at a time to give you the information accompanying. First, Fall Creek Parkway and Orchard Avenue will be a 10 full-day closure. Fall Creek Parkway to Keystone will be a 130-day eastbound closure. Keystone Avenue at 34th to 46 will be a 10 full-day closure. The segment of Keystone Avenue to Emerson will be a 130-day westbound closure. 38th and Sherman at the intersection will be a full 14-day closure. 38th and Emerson Avenue, it would be an 18-day full closure. Emerson Avenue to Shadeland Avenue will be a 130-day westbound directional closure only. Pendleton Pike from 56th Street to 56th Street will be a 60-day northbound closure. Otis Avenue Post Road to Lawrence Village Park will be a 30-day full-day closure. Wheeler Road, Otis Avenue to Rising Road, a 30-day full closure. Wheeler Road, Hawkins Road to 59th Street, a 30-day full closure. Rising Road, Wheeler Road to Lee Road will be a 10-day full closure. Now we'll go to the individual detours to show as these closures happen, how they'll be routed or through. So during this 130-day Fall Creek Parkway to Keystone Avenue closure, westbound traffic will be open, eastbound traffic will be closed. Eastbound traffic will be routed north on Fall Creek, then south on Keystone, where it can continue eastbound along 38th Street. The Keystone Avenue to Emerson closure, this would be a 130-day closure. with eastbound traffic open. Westbound traffic will be routed north of Emerson, across 46th Street and down Keystone traffic. This is anticipated the second half of 2022. The Emerson Avenue to Shadeland closure is a 130-day closure anticipated the first half of 2023. Eastbound traffic will be open while westbound will be closed. Traffic will be routed north of Shadeland, across 46th Street and down Emerson, and then continue along 38th Street. The Post Road and Lawrence closure, southbound will be open when postbound as northbound is closed. This would be a 60-day full closure anticipated in 2023. Traffic will be routed continuously along Pilgrim Pike, north of Midhofer, and then along 56th Street.
Thank you, Jarvis. And I did just want to briefly talk about what our riders might experience. For the safety of our riders and construction workers, there will be some impacts to bus stops and routes when necessary. Here you can see what temporary signage looks like, but temporary stops will be provided wherever possible during times when construction must occur immediately adjacent to bus stops. Those stops may need to be relocated or closed temporarily. And as I said, the screen here shows what that looks like. But we are encouraging our riders to stay informed during the construction process. We have a number of helpful tools, including our research page, where we outline all of the upcoming impacts for construction that our riders will experience. And then remember that the Transit app and MyStop mobile app, as well as our rider alerts page and Twitter page, shows real-time service changes. If you're not following our service page, follow at IndyGo Rider Alerts on Twitter. Awesome. We know that construction is not easy for anyone. No one loves construction, but we do believe that the permanent improvements coming with the Purple Line will far outweigh the temporary inconveniences. But my job and our job is to try to support you all and make sure that the community has all the resources it needs to thrive during construction. We've already been having a number of conversations throughout the project's progress. And now that we're here, we are going to continue that engagement. We've met with anchor institutions. We've made rounds to neighborhood meetings. We've talked to faith leaders at different churches. We've called businesses and much, much more. But if you feel that we've missed reaching out to you, please let me know or Jarvis know, and we'd be happy to connect. Again, our information is going to be provided at the end of the presentation. I would like to show you a new refreshed Purple Line website that we've launched. It has a number of resources to help the community thrive through construction. The first thing that you are going to notice when you get on indigo.net/Purple Line is a button to sign up for our weekly newsletter. And so Jarvis mentioned earlier that contractors have to tell us in advance what they're doing before they do it. And so we're going to be providing that information to those who sign up for our weekly newsletter. And again, that'll give a 2 to 3 week projection of construction activity so that you're never caught off guard. So I encourage everyone on this call, everyone listening in on Facebook Live, to sign up for our newsletter. We also have the project details page. If you're ever wondering, well, what does the configuration or what does construction look like in front of my property? This is a very helpful tool because you'll see 100% design plans in a Google overlay. You can kind of just work your way throughout the corridor to see where stations are being put or where dedicated lane and sidewalks are being placed. So a really neat tool there. We also have our construction updates page. When we update our weekly newsletter, that information will also go on this page. What's kind of nice about it is that you can click on the segment that you're interested in, and then it'll populate the related impacts and updates. as such. I mentioned the resources that we have dedicated for our riders. We'll also be providing information about what's happening now and what's happening next as far as impacts to bus stops and detours for our riders. But we've outlined everything we know to this point. And so we encourage riders to visit this page, get familiar with what will be changing and the impacts that will happen during construction. But again, follow our rider alerts page, Twitter page, and view our rider alerts page on our website. We also have a number of community tools to help the community thrive through construction. This page shows all of our upcoming events, which I encourage you all to attend. Since I'm here, we do have 2 open houses happening tomorrow at New Direction Church, an 11 to 2 p.m. session, and then a 5 to 8 p.m. session. Then on Thursday, we're going to be at Cafe Indy, again, those same times, 11 to 2 p.m. and then 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. But more information can be found on this page. And then once construction starts, we'll be hosting weekly virtual office hours. So you can ask your questions and get updates from the comfort of your own home by simply clicking this little purple button right here. And you'll be able to talk to our staff every Wednesday from 5 to 6 p.m. And then we have our community toolkit. If you're a business and you're wanting free advertising, or maybe you're just wanting yard signage to let people know that you're still open for business, or maybe you're a community organization that wants to support the Purple Line Project, we're able to provide yard signs, window clings, print material for those faith leaders in the corridor who will be impacted by detours. We're willing to do customized property access map where we show your business on a map or your church on a map and how the congregation can access your church, just as an example. And that's something that we're willing to provide to all businesses and organizations that are being impacted along 38th Street and Post Road. You can also request to meet an IndyGo representative or invite us to your community meeting. And when you submit that, that goes to us and we're able to fulfill that request. And then lastly, we have our newsroom, which is where you can keep up with all of the big news related to the Purple Line. Our last press release went out on January 26th, and it talks about some of our outreach events that we're holding this week. All right, back to the presentation. We kind of went over the community toolkit. I mentioned the property access maps. I mentioned the yard signage. We're wanting to paint the Purple Line corridor. We want everyone to be aware of what's coming on. So don't be surprised if you start to see yard signs and feather flags popping up throughout the corridor. Again, I want to encourage you all to sign up for our weekly newsletter where we will be giving a 3-week projection of construction-related activity every week. We're even on Nextdoor. If you live within the Purple Line corridor, you will automatically see updates about Purple Line construction if you have a Nextdoor account. So we are looking forward to engaging in this pretty cool tool to connect with neighborhoods. We even have transit ambassadors who you may see riding the buses, informing our riders about impacts to come. You'll see them at community events and much more. You'll also see a Purple Line bus, a promotional bus roaming throughout the corridor, a walking billboard, or I should say a rolling billboard that encourages people to learn more about the project. So we're doing our part to let the community know about construction impacts, and we're going to be doing more. And these are just some ways that you can stay engaged throughout the project with the look ahead that I talked about, that newsletter, our virtual office hours, the Nextdoor account, and then community events. And here you will find our information. Again, I'm Jordan Patterson, Special Programs Manager at IndyGo. My email address is jpatterson@indygo.net. And then for immediate construction-related questions, those can be directed to Jarvis Jointer at jarvis.jointer@indigo.net. And with that being said, we will open up the floor for questions. All right, let's go over to the Q&A chat. We have one question that says, I'm curious why the section of 38th Street roughly between Meridian and Winthrop doesn't include dedicated lanes like the rest of the corridor. Jennifer Pierce, is that something that you can answer?
Yeah, I can give it a try. It's a kind of a hard one to answer. So I think our thinking has, and our being the broad community of Indianapolis, has evolved since the early planning of the Red Line. And initially, as the Red Line was being planned, it was felt that that traffic at that segment of 38th Street was too much to handle dedicated lanes. As we're looking at our BRT lines now and understanding more about the impact that our BRT lines have, we're evaluating those decisions. So it is that segment, it does not have dedicated lanes right now. I live nearby there. There is a lot of traffic there. But there are also a lot of reasons why dedicated lanes could work there. So I'll just say it's an ongoing conversation that we're having with Department of Public Works. DPW is currently studying that segment of roadway and how they can make it more accessible to pedestrians and bicyclists and more friendly to people who are not driving cars. I don't know what that's going to look like yet, but just letting you know it's something that we're looking at. Hopefully that answers your question. It was hard to type that one. It was a little long.
We have another question from Claire. It says, should I understand there will no longer be an alternative route with 38th Street, Franklin, 42nd Street to Post?
I wasn't sure that I understood if
well, I did talk about early in the presentation that, we are reviewing our local route network. And we're making adjustments based off of our reality with COVID-19. But we will take out a map or proposal to the public. We want the public to vet that. So it's too soon to say what the local route looks like, but we are absolutely committed to providing, routes and access as much as possible, if I understand that question correctly. And then we have one hand raised from Kendra Johnson. Kendra, I'm going to allow you to talk and ask your question. Hey, Kendra.
Hi, how are you? My question, Jordan, is I know that you said the Purple Line is going to be replacing Route 39.
Majority of Route 39, yes, ma'am.
But I also noticed that from my writing, Route 4, it's going to have some sort of impact on that route as well, the construction. Because I usually take Route 4 to 46 in Shadeland to attend Sabbath service on Saturday. And I know that it goes down, Route 4 does go down that particular corridor as well.
Yep, you are absolutely correct. It will impact some of Route 4, I believe Route 26, as well as Route 39.
Yep. And I would just add, as Jordan said, it's an ongoing, we're doing some ongoing analysis to figure out how all those pieces and parts are going to fit together. So as that information comes out, if you sign up to get alerts from us, you will be informed as to how that conversation is going. No decisions have been made yet, Kendra.
All right. I'm looking for questions. Keep them coming, folks. Keep them coming. Counselor Lakeisha Jackson says, great job with the presentation. Transparent, clear, direct, and detailed information. Thank you, IndyGo. Thank you, Councilwoman Jackson. Let me see. We have one question from Jonathan. It says,
that was tied to a previous one that maybe Leslie just answered.
okay.
Jonathan's follow-up there.
It looks like right now there are no questions on Facebook at this time. Are there any more questions? We do have a question from Karen Spite. Karen, I'm going to unmute you and then you can ask your question. Karen, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you now.
Okay. I had put a question in the QA, but I was wondering because I live on 38th Street in the 7400 block. Back in 2019, I did receive a letter from IndyGo saying that they were going to notify me of someone coming out and talking to me about surveying the property because they might have to take some of my property to widen the streets. And I haven't heard anything since then. And also, part of my other question was, how will they keep homeowners informed? Because 2 weeks ago, I come home and there's these red flags in my yard and red arrows painted on my in my grass, and I wasn't notified that, hey, we're going to be doing this. And what is it for? I didn't even know what it was for. So a part of my question is, how will they keep homeowners advised? And the other part, are they still planning on doing that, getting with homeowners if they have to take part of their property in order to widen the streets?
Thanks for your question, Karen. I can tell you that we have already completed the property acquisition process, but Jennifer Pierce can speak more to that.
Okay.
Yeah. Hi, Karen. Yep, we have. So probably what happened was in 2019, we were early in our design and we did think that we might need to acquire some of your property. But as the designs progressed, we always try to minimize any property impacts. So my guess is that as the design progressed, we found that we could fit the design in without impacting your property. So if you have not been contacted, it sounds like you've not been contacted by us. That means we ended up not needing your property.
Okay.
So you're all good there. We've acquired everything. So anybody else who's in that same situation, if you've not heard from us, we're done. We don't need your property. As far as the red flags and the markings, my guess is that is utility locates. So as we're progressing towards construction, either our contractor or the utilities that have to do relocations probably just called in for utility relocates so that as they're doing work in the area, they don't, hit something accidentally. So if you would leave those flags there, that would be appreciated. They should be coming in and out of there and out of your way, but not taking any of your property.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And Leslie, can you just speak to broadly how we are going to be communicating with residents and businesses throughout the corridor?
Yeah, I sure can. So we're doing a couple things. So we're using all the traditional methods as much as we can. So you'll have mailers that let you know of the different ways that you can stay engaged through our weekly email, newsletter. You'll know about any events that we have on the corridor. Sorry, I have a parrot who is over here wanting to talk, so forgive me. We'll also have social media. We're doing something new with our Next Door app, and we'll be sending updates through that platform to the area, really an expanded area. It's kind of nice. So it will be from 30th Street to 46th Street on the north side and Meridian to Mithofer, spanning east and west. So that will be a targeted way. So if you're in those conversations, there will be plenty of information to keep you updated. And we're also, we're getting digital with it too. So if you're on any of your social media feeds or websites, there'll be some targeted messaging for that. And we'll use all of our local media platforms, making sure that they're up to date, radio announcements, as well as our website. So we're trying to meet everyone where they are as much as possible.
Thank you, Miss Leslie and Olivia. All right, there was a question about inductive recharging. Why are we doing it? Jennifer, can you talk about that technology and what's the purpose?
Yeah, I can, unless Michael, you think you want to take that one?
Yeah, I mean, go ahead. I can.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think it is the technology that was offered to us. So the reason that we're doing charging at the end of the line there is to help meet to help us more effectively operate the electric buses on the line. And in this case, on the north side there, BYD, who's the manufacturer of the buses, is actually installing that charging for us and no cost to us. And that is a technology that those buses use to charge. We do charge them in our facility. We charge them with, I think it's called a depot charger. I'm sorry, this is not my super area of expertise, but they actually plug them in when they're here on site. But when they're up at the terminus, it doesn't require somebody to go in and plug them in this way. It's a really quick, fast, top it off, 15, 20 minutes max. I think it might only be 10 minutes. They top it off so that they can continue on the route. So that wasn't super eloquent. I don't know, Michael, if there was anything else you wanted to add to that.
No, I think that sums it up. And the question is, if it's using more electricity, I mean, I don't know if the question is it using more electricity because of the technology versus overhead charging? But either way, the inductive charging or overhead charging, the buses do need this at the end of the route. And so it's more of a component of the system now for it to be successful.
Awesome. And I see that Kieran has another question.
Oh, no, I didn't. I saw this said lower your hand, so I thought I hit it because it'll take my hand away from the question.
No worries, no worries. Is that the case for you, Miss Kendra? Do you have another question?
No, sir. My question is, I really appreciate what you're doing with the media in terms of the outreach for the public. But one of the things I have found out in my dealing with the public for over 30 years, you're going to always come across somebody that is going to say up, down, right, left, upside down, and right side up. I didn't hear anything about it, or, they might want paper information because they're not technologically inclined.
So Miss Kendra, I'll jump in here, Jordan. Thank you for that point. You are very correct. And we're gonna probably continue to find some folks that we didn't quite hit, but I did miss a component of that. And we do plan to do some canvassing with some door-to-door hangers. That will be definitely for those businesses and homes directly on the corridor or just a few streets back. It won't be that entire zone, but we do plan to do that. And we'll have brochures and some of our stakeholders along the corridor. So the library, a partnering cafe, and a few other of the anchor institutions. And we're open to any other suggestions that you might lend. We like that experience.
And I just want to give Miss Kendra a shout out because she's doing the work. She is actually one of our transit ambassadors. So she's going to be one of the ones canvassing with the IndyGo team to make sure those who might not, have access to technology can get the information through our canvassing efforts. So thank you, Miss Kendra.
Thank you, Jordan. I greatly appreciate the shout out. And I really do look forward to being a transit ambassador. And as I said before, I will be riding that particular route on both the buses on 4 and 39 right before you really get started in good with the construction.
We appreciate you. Wish we can make copies of you. Awesome. And then we have another question. Will you be sharing this information with Marion County charter schools? Will they have this information? We have coordinated with IPS and Lawrence, but we love that suggestion. If we can target someone, if we're missing someone, we want to know about it. And so that is something that we can certainly do, reach out to charter schools that may be impacted by either construction or benefits from the Purple Line. All right, and I believe those are all of our questions. We'll give it just a few more seconds. But as you all are thinking of other questions that you may have, again, I do want to invite you all to come out this week, talk to our staff. We'll be at New Direction tomorrow from 11 to 2 p.m. and then again from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. We'll have different stations. We'll have a station if you are a business and you're wanting support, a station for our riders. You'll be able to get general construction or specific construction related updates tomorrow. And then we'll follow that same format on Thursday when we're at Cafe Indy on the far east side of town. Again, from 11 a.m. To 2 p.m. and then again from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. And then next Thursday, we will be at the Indiana State Fairgrounds. We'll have a purple pop-up that'll be a drive-through where you can, if you're a motorist, pull through the south parking lot, get you some free coffee to start your day, get some information to learn about the first big closure that we're anticipating mid to late February. So again, we're trying to do all the things to make sure people are aware of what's coming, keep people abreast on the project. And then lastly, I want to say, again, please sign up for our newsletter. That's going to be the main way that we're going to be communicating about the project. Again, we're going to be giving a 2 to 3 week projection of construction activity every week through that construction newsletter. And then remember that we'll have our virtual office hours that we'll be holding every Wednesday from 5 to 6. And then we'll also have that community toolkit where you can reach us at any time. And I don't see any more questions, so we are going to end the night. Again, thanks for spending some time with us. We hope to see you in person in the next coming days. And again, my name is Jordan Patterson, email address jpatterson@indigo.net. Thanks for being with us.